Pitch Fest. How are you guys doing tonight? I'm Jim. I'm just going to do a short little comedy bit, and then we'll talk about how that relates to Pitch Fest and whatnot. My parents came for a visit recently, and I don't know about you guys. Maybe some of you had this where maybe your dad wasn't as talkative to you when you were kids. You know, my dad worked in a factory, worked all day, came home, really quiet, and I always felt like I was missing that connection with my dad. And when parents came to visit, I told myself, I vowed that I was going to have a conversation with my dad. We were going to have that bonding moment. It was going to happen. They flew into Charlottesville Airport. It's about a half-an-hour ride from my house to the airport. Dad sits in front with me, my wife and my mom in the back seat, and I'm ready to ask my dad a question. He starts to answer. My mom starts talking and does not stop till we get to my house. And one person has had that experience. My dad would try, like every time she would try to take a breath and come up for air, he would try to get something in, and she would just start talking right over him. And I figured that my only way to have a conversation with my dad is to make note of everything he tried to say on that ride and cipher it when I get home. So when I got home, went to my room, wrote down everything, and figured that on the way home, my dad tried to tell me, well, then your brother, and that was my dad. And over the course of the week, though, one of the good things is I learned that my dad is kind of a genius in that he has now learned to communicate without using vocabulary at all. He just releases air from his body to let you know what he thinks and how he feels. An example, you go up and you're like, hey, Dad, how was dinner? Oh. Want to go watch the UVA game? You interested in watching some basketball? Oh. He's not from Virginia, so don't take offense at that. We had a big family too. I had two other brothers, and I don't know how many guys here, or even girls, are oldest siblings. You have younger brothers. If you have a younger brother, you can verify this with me. If you have a younger brother, that is God's science experiment given to you, is it not? That is like, if you need to, that is where we get knowledge from little brothers. It's like, if you've got something in the fridge that looks like it's molding, maybe that's not healthy to eat, you give it to your little brother, you see if it's any good, right? You're out there, it's winter, you guys want to go play on the frozen lake, you're not sure if it's going to hold enough weight, you send the little brother out there, right? That's what it is. Every time I'm driving on the highway and I see that someone hit a deer, I go, that was little brother. The other deers dared him to run across the street. I got that. They did. I got that from my dad. My dad used to go, that is little brother. Actually, my dad would go, All right, that's enough of the comedy. I didn't know how to end that. Like, I was like, I'm just going to go right into this talk. So I said, that's the end of the comedy. Keep me on point here. Bernard had me over to his office and said, let's talk about what you want to talk about. And I rambled for like 50 minutes. And he's like, get it down to 10. So I got 4 things that writing comedy, I'm chasing people out too, I'm sorry. 4 things that have to do with comedy that I think can relate to PitchCraft. Number 1 is connecting with your audience. As I've been teaching comedy and improv for about 8 years now, and the one thing I've noticed is every couple months we get someone who comes in and says, I'm the funniest guy in my group of friends. And they say, hey, you should go do stand-up because you're so hilarious. And they come out and they do stand-up and no one laughs. Why is that? Because in their group of friends, there are 5, 6, 8 guys that all have the same experience. They've seen all the same episodes of Family Guy. They all laugh at the same things. They all go to the same school. They all read the same books. But you go to a room of 30, 40, 50 people, and none of them have that same experience. And you have to get them to see your point of view. And that's kind of like why I picked that first bit. Everyone has a father, or at least is familiar with the concept of a father, I think, right? No one got their mind blown when I said dad? That was just another joke. I didn't expect any hands to get raised. But that is what is so important. And Tommy mentioned this as well. It's like connecting with the people you're pitching to. The second thing is letting the audience know what you're about. Where are you coming from? One thing that we see a lot on stand-up comics is they'll open with like a really light joke, and then as they go on, the jokes become harsher or weirder or totally different. And part of the thing is to have a consistency to it, so the people who are coming in know what to expect from you. So they get those callbacks, they get your jokes because that's what they're expecting from you. And that was really one reason I was worried about doing this, because It's one thing to go and do jokes at a comedy club where people paid for a ticket and they're buying drinks and they're ready to laugh. It's quite another thing to come to a thing where people are like, I want to make $1 million. Show me how to make $1 million, but start out with 3 minutes worth of jokes. that is incredibly difficult. I hope I did all right. The third thing is to know your audience. And this is kind of the flip-flop. If I'm going to do a show, is it going to be all adults? Is it going to be college kids? Who I'm going to be presenting to is going to affect what material I'm going to present. I mean, I've got material that's not all about my dad, but I don't necessarily feel thinking here. You mentioned my T-shirt. I have T-shirts that say, "Have fun, kick ass, drink whiskey." And I was like, I wonder if I can sell those at UVA. Would I get in trouble for encouraging drinking whiskey at UVA? I don't know. I chose not to find out. Not from you guys, of course. These guys are like, no, we drink it all the time. I'm not worried about you guys getting mad at me, okay? I also work here, so I'm like, can I do that? And my last thing, and Bernard brought this up to me, is truth, and probably everyone's going to talk about this in some point of view. There's a famous book for comics called Truth and Comedy. And it's a saying, if you take a class, someone will eventually say it, and it's often misused. Truth in comedy is not, I'm going to tell a story that actually happened to me. That goes back to like knowing your crowd. You guys, if I tell a story about something, you guys don't all know the facts of the story. Truth in comedy is having your opinions and presenting your opinions. One of my favorite comics of all time, Bill Hicks, had a saying, he's like, don't have funny opinions. Present your opinions in a funny manner. And this kind of, listening to Tommy, something similar he said is like, make them care about it, and don't just tell them what your pitch is, but make them care about it, what's your opinion about it, and make them feel about it as much as you feel about it. Am I right? Oh, see, I was listening and I got it right. I mean, there's nothing you can do. Basically, you go out, you do the material, and it's never done. It's never done. And you hone it, and you work on rewrites. And like I said, there's points where you think it's funny, and you have to figure out, why didn't the audience think it was funny? Did I not get them to see my point of view? Did I say something? Here's another thing we give to new comics is, don't go with that first idea. A lot of times, like if I think it's a funny joke, and I go with the first joke I came up with, chances are a lot of the audience has already come up with it, and it's not funny. But if I say, I'm going to write 10 punchlines, I get down to 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are things that only I'm coming up with, and that's going to surprise people. All right, my name is Jim Zarling. You know what? Follow me on Twitter if you want. It's @Zarling. I've got cards with all my social media stuff if you're into that. But let's bring our host back up, and thank you for listening to me ramble. Appreciate it.